Hey everyone, it's at Percussion episode 45 and it's May 21st, 2016, better known as episode 5 of Game of Thrones. And over there is Megan Arms.
Hello.
And Ben Charles.
Hi everybody.
Laurel is away today. She is at Beer Yoga. Beer yoga is something a local brewery does here in which you do yoga for, I don't know, an hour and then have a beer. It takes place at a local brewery here. So
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, so she is, you can tell, really cares about the podcast and is doing what's best for it.
You choose beer yoga over the podcast. Come on.
Maybe for episode 50, that's what we'll do.
We could do beer yoga.
We can do beer yoga. Hey, so our guest today is a soloist, chamber musician, and educator. Her performing is split between the new music powerhouse Contemporaneous. Contemporaneous, is that how I should say that?
Contemporaneous.
Contemporaneous, yeah, of course. Okay, so Contemporaneous and the Brooklyn Pace avant-garde pop percussion trio Tigue. She has worked closely with generating new sounds with composers Robert Honstein, Jason Truding, and John Luther Adams. She has performed alongside So Percussion, Nexus, Bang on a Can's Asphalt Orchestra, and pop icon David Byrne. She has also traveled to make music in Jordan, Mexico, Paris, and most recently India, alongside Grammy Award winner A.R. Rahman. So hello to Amy Garapic. How you doing?
Hey everyone, I'm doing great.
So I just reading that in that very stumbly narration of your bio I just did, I noticed you've done a lot of things Megan has done, like done things in Jordan and A.R. Rahman in India. Can you can you guys explain a little bit about how you know each other and what things you've done together?
You want to go? You go. Yeah, Megan, Megan and I are kindred spirits in a lot of ways, and we actually didn't. It's funny that we didn't meet earlier in life and in our musical careers, because we had these crazy paths that kept crossing each other with drum corps and being music students and knowing a lot of the same people, being really into world music and world percussion. And we met because Megan was actually going to be a DMA student at Eastman, where I was doing my master's degree, and she was looking for a place to live, and we needed a roommate. And much to my current roommate's protest against, we invited another percussionist to live with us, but we all became very close friends, and Megan and I really just hit it off immediately. And then since then, we have been, I think, just really lucky to be able to have these really amazing experiences together. When Megan went to Jordan, I was doing this fellowship at Bard College and looking to do more and see more, and so she invited me to Jordan, and I just totally took her up on the offer. I think it was like a 2 a.m. Skype session on my birthday, and I was like really sad or something. She's like, come to Jordan, and it was incredible. And then the A.R. Rahman thing was an opportunity that I was approached with, and basically in talking to the man from India, I was like, do you need more people for this? Because I have this friend who would really like to be involved, and so Megan got to come along too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just some interesting path crossing, on a bit of luck, I think, too. And I think a lot of it comes from just like, hey, we want to spend time together, we want to hang out, and then we often do it around things like Inuxuit or, or trips like this. So yeah, since we do live in different cities, which is sad, but we have to create opportunity and experiences for us to spend time together.
Yeah, sure. Speaking of, you said you had a concert last night. What was happening last night?
Yeah, so I played this really fun concert last night with my trio Tigue. We're all based in Brooklyn. And there's an organization called Sofar Sounds, which actually stands for Sounds for a Room, Sofar. And it was started in London in 2009, I think. And it's basically, these people were at a concert and nobody was listening, so they decided to invite people into their living room to play a concert. And so these concerts have now spread to over 340 cities worldwide. And basically, they're secret shows. You can go onto the Sofar website, find when concerts are happening in your town, or create the opportunity for them to happen. And they're in living rooms and kind of public places. So we played in a loft space in Tribeca, and this was massively huge and beautiful, beautiful. Like the elevator opened up into the living room, basically. And we played a set with 2 other artists from New York and didn't know anybody there, which was also really great to reach a new audience and met a bunch of great people. And actually the man who was hosting, this guy Craig, it was his apartment, in the 70s he lived in New York and was going to see concerts of Philip Glass and Steve Reich way back in the day when these things were kind of just sort of happening, which is totally, totally wild. And it was really fun to kind of like pick his brain a little bit. So that's what we did last night.
Yeah, the apartment was incredible. And it was kind of interesting because, you know, it's a secret show. So, like, you have to be either, like, on a list or you have to know this website. It's not publicly announced, right? So...
and you don't know who's playing when you sign up to go to the concert either. So you're just going to see music.
Yeah, that was really interesting. And... what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, so I brought a friend with me, and she was like, oh, so I guess all the bands invited the people. This must be all the people that the bands know, because how else would people know about it? And I was like, no, I don't think they invited anyone except for maybe like 1 or 2, you know, people they could put on a list. But it's all done through the organization. So, yeah, interesting.
So it reminds me of, sorry, Ben, I know it's you, but it reminds me real quick of a group here, some of the faculty, they do something called the Friendly City Chamber Players, and they played at a local bar, not the yoga bar, but another one, and it was a freaking packed house. I mean, they played wind quintets, they played arrangements that were for, what did they have? They had a 2 violins, flute, horn, bassoon, and man, it was just packed, slamming, and amazing. So it's really cool when you see those things just like come in the public venues. Okay, Ben, what?
So Amy, we've kind of talked by proximity about Tigue a few times, and I've been watching this group actually for a while now. I remember, was it maybe about a year or 2 ago, there was that big Vic Firth video that came out?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us a bit about the formation of the group, because it's different compared to like Third Coast or So Percussion. It's not like what I would call like a traditional percussion group.
Yeah. So in Funny News, we came about basically because of the same kind of story as Third Coast, and so it was that we were all in school together. We were all playing chamber music together. We all are from Ohio. We studied at Ohio State with really incredible teachers, Susan Powell and Joe Krieger, who taught us all about Nexus and chamber music and world music and to listen to sound, to really have our own opinions about music. So we were playing all this percussion chamber music. It was our favorite thing. And I was looking for summer opportunities and stumbled on the So Summer Institute website the very first year that they did it. So we went to their very, very first iteration of that, which was awesome and great, and they were figuring things out. And we had just become a trio in undergrad, or no, we were a quartet called the Overground Percussion Group. Our website is no longer in existence, but it was very fun when it was. And we were just trying to put concerts together. We played in galleries in undergrad, and we like freaked out because we thought our teachers would be mad at us because we were doing this thing that wasn't our school repertoire. And so we lied about our concerts and didn't tell them they were happening, which made them more upset with us. So tell your teachers when you do things because they'll be supportive. And then I left to go to grad school first, and Carson and Matt were still in undergrad, and I went off to Eastman. And then the next year, Matt came to Eastman, and we continued to play together. And we just had a real synergy when we played. We noticed it in percussion ensemble in undergrad, and it continued, and we were best of friends, and we listened to so much music together. And then Carson actually made his way to Eastman as well, and once I left, but I was still kind of close by. And Tigue basically came about because we wanted to commission Robert Honstein. Matt saw a concert of his, loved his music, and thought that he would write a really incredible percussion piece. So Tigue really started as just a chamber percussion group. I mean, that's what we loved, that's what we knew, and that's what we wanted to keep doing. And we wanted to commission Robert. Our 4th member stayed at Ohio State to do an art and tech degree, and he was still involved in music, but we kind of felt like we were moving forward, so we figured we would ask Robert to write for trio, which was a little bit, off the beaten path. There's line upon line, but there's a lot of quartets sitting around because So has all this repertoire, but we really wanted to make our own thing. We love So and we look up to them and they're huge inspirations to us, but we didn't want to do all the things they did. We did a lot of that in undergrad. We played music pieces with Wood. We played Shifty. We played So-Called Laws of Nature. You know, we loved that. And when Robert wrote us a piece, it really brought us together. It was 25 minutes of music and we needed more. So we began writing some of our own music as we were living in New York. We didn't have any money and we couldn't really commission more people. And we were, I mean, truth be told, we're really picky and we're not trying to commission 50 new pieces in the next 3 years. I think we're really trying to be very careful about working with composers, but we felt like we had a lot of things that we wanted to say as musicians. And so we began to write, and that's sort of become our identity now, this like percussion pop band. But we still are very interested in working with composers and we still do work with them. We've just been trying to formulate whatever this language and sound is that we're going with. But the thing with Tigue too, I think everyone identifies us as the record that we put out, but that is sort of like one thing that we can do and have done, but we're really interested in exploring many different paths from that aren't just this rock band that plays, but also we did this crazy thing with this artist where we like build this sculpture and that's a musical thing, and we're working with other composers and thinking about what is coming next for us. But it was really, I don't know, it's sort of an organic evolution, and we didn't say we wanted to be a rock band. It just kind of, it happened, you know?
It's interesting. One thing I think a lot of people don't realize is that Nexus started as an improvisatory group.
Yeah, they didn't want to play composed music.
Yeah, and like the other way. So it's interesting, it seems like it might be the other way.
Yeah, and So, you know, So had 3 rules when they started. And let's see if I can remember. The first rule was we do not improvise. The second rule was we do not write our own music. And the third rule was we do not play world percussion.
Wow.
And they were also trying to not be Nexus. They wanted to do their thing, you know? And they've done all of those things since then. I mean, rules are meant to be broken, you know? But it is interesting to kind of think about how things sort of transition. And I mean, that's one thing I think that we try to stay true to, is that we don't really know exactly what the path is. We don't say, this is where we're going, we're going to put our heads down and go. We're just trying to take in everything that's happening around us, think about what's going on in the world musically and culturally, and just try to put that out in some way, however it might come out.
Cool. Hey, well, I have just a couple of short announcements to make. It's been a really positive, I guess, last week and a half or so, because, you know, people kind of, it's job announcement season, meaning who got what job season. Megan, what can you tell me about this right here?
Well done, Casey.
I know, thank you very much.
Wow, I'm flattered. Wow. Well, yeah.
It's actually a JMU shirt. You just covered up the J.
Yeah.
Good design, Casey. Yeah. So I've taught at Mizzou for 2 years now as an assistant teaching professor. So my load is very, very teaching heavy, and I was just promoted to assistant professor. So I am now tenure track professor at University of Missouri.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, a very big deal. So yeah, way to go, Megan. And Ben, can you please tell me what you know about
Oh, that's hilarious.
about this? Do you know anything about that?
Just to be clear, that's not a real shirt, right? You just like tape that on.
No, this is how it came. It came with a paper tied, pinned to a shirt. I kind of want my money back. Yeah, it was expensive.
Well, Casey got this shirt, so I decided to apply for this job. Yeah, I was offered a position and accepted at Charlton State University in Stephenville, Texas, as visiting assistant professor of percussion. They are basically the athletic band director used to be doing athletic band and percussion, so they've decided to split that into two and create a percussion position. And then it's visiting because they have funding for 2 years of it, and they're trying it out. And if they like it, then they'll keep it. If they don't like it, then I guess I'll be finding a job elsewhere. But it sounds like I think they'll like it. I hope.
Yeah, and so yeah, congrats to our very own Megan and Ben. It's really rad. But also, if you guys remember Bill Shaltis, he's a close friend of mine. We went to school together. Huge congrats to him for getting the University of Memphis job. Also, Mike Truesdale, he was on the show, Northern Colorado. He just won that job. And a friend of mine who hosted me up in Alaska, Morris Palter, just got the University of Arizona job. So it's like, man, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 major jobs have been some really close, tight people of the show and of myself personally, and it's just, yeah, it feels really, really cool just to know that.
Percussion.
Yeah, right. At Percussion had everything to do with it.
If you come on at Percussion as a guest, you'll get a job.
Apparently that seems to be the trend. And also, if you guys remember Amy Advocate and Matt Sherrick from Transient Canvas, they are getting married. So that's.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's
Either
really
get
cool.
a job or get married.
Yeah. So Amy also teaches at 2 colleges, Keene State and Dartmouth College.
Uh-huh.
So she's also doing quite a bit of college teaching as well. How is that a part of what you do, or like what portion of the pie is that?
Oh man, I would say it's a good third to half probably of like my time and energy in crazy, freelancer life. I live in New York, but these colleges are in New Hampshire. So I spend 2 full days, sometimes 2.5 in New Hampshire every week. And it's a full day at Keene where I co-teach with Christopher Swist, who's artist in residence there. He's also a composer, so he teaches some composition, and he also does some music technology and teaches a little less than half of the percussion studio, and then I teach the other half. And we both run the percussion ensemble together. So that's a pretty long and intense day, and I teach like percussion methods and some other classes sometimes. And then at Dartmouth, I have a percussion studio there, and then I also direct the Contemporary Music Lab. So, which is really fun. They're very different campuses, different faculty families, different kinds of students, but it's fun. I really enjoy it. It's a good way to balance my life between New York, which is crazy all the time, and the stability of beautiful, idyllic New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And I do really love the teaching. It's great. It's very energizing. My students are really great. So it's.
And you have a concert this weekend? Or
yeah, we have a lovely guest. Tim Feeney is joining us in Hanover, New Hampshire. The Contemporary Music Lab has their spring concert on Monday, and they'll be joined by the Percussion Studio, it'll be like split Percussion Studio recital and Contemporary Music Lab concert. And Tim wrote us about a 30-minute piece called A Fable, which we will premiere on Monday, which is going to be great, mixing some field recordings and sounds that we'll all be making together.
Awesome.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
So real quick, while we're talking about university teaching, one thing that I wish someone had explained to me that I'd like to explain to anyone watching real quick is that, like, I consider, and I guess most people would say, there are kind of 3 different levels of university teaching. And so adjunct teaching is basically you are contracted to have some sort of teaching load, and you are paid for that teaching, and that is it. The next level up is, like, it's called instructor or sometimes lecturer, something along those lines. And that's similar to adjunct, except you are considered full-time and generally get health insurance and benefits with it. And then the final upper tier is what Megan was referring to with tenure track positions. So that's assistant professor, associate professor, full professor. So there's kind of a ladder of rank to climb. That's a full-time teaching load, but it also includes research and creative activities. So performing at things like Days of Percussion and so on and so on and so forth. Obviously the goal for everyone is to get the tenure track kind of line. But one of the most important things I think for a lot of people don't realize that John Parks actually pointed out when he came on here was if you get this sort of adjunct part-time teaching gig, if you will, it's very important to treat it as if it is tenure track, because when you go to apply for a tenure track job, you can say, I'm already doing what you would expect me to do, instead of, oh, I have these ideas for what I want to do.
Yeah, for sure. Megan and Ben, do you find now that you're in a tenure line, you're just like talking down to people, and you're like always walking around with your head like super high?
I haven't been on campus since I got promoted, so I will definitely do that when I get back.
Yeah, that's definitely the first thing you got to do. Act like super entitled, and yeah, that's important.
I have to say, like, this is really dorky, but one of the things I'm most excited about is having my own office.
Yeah.
Hey, well, we have a Facebook question for Amy. It's sort of along the same lines. You were talking about collaborating with composers, but maybe you can elaborate a little more. Alan Lange says, what are some tips you would give? No, sorry, that's not the one that's about that. Micah Detweiller says, what's the compositional process like for Tigue? Is it collaborative? Is anything notated?
So it's extremely collaborative. Almost everything that's on our record, I guess, everything is written together with all of us in the same room, working on sounds, trying to figure things out. It's never a case where somebody comes in and says, okay, here's the next piece, here's your part, here's my part. I think that there are kernels of ideas that people sort of mull over and maybe come up with when we're outside of that space, and come in with maybe some kind of number game or rhythmic idea or a meter that they want to mess around with. If you can't tell, most of our music involves a lot of numbers and math, I guess. That's sort of, since we don't have a vocalist, there's no lyrics, and we sort of always talk about how the lyrics are sort of replaced by this rhythmic complexity, where when you listen to music, oftentimes you're taken to the lyrics to kind of like understand the song or something. But for us, I think we don't want people to get frustrated by the numbers, but we do want them to be curious about what's happening, especially for those that are sort of a little bit more musically inclined, just because there's a lot going on, and I think it can be fun for people to try to like figure out what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess with notation, there's no thing that I could give to 3 strangers that would say, here's the music, now you can play it. But we each have like a Moleskine notebook, and oftentimes it's just our own way of writing down the things that we need to know to understand how the music's going to fit together. But there's nothing that's notated in regular notation. Megan actually saw the score that we used last night, and mine, it's on a piece of paper that's like this big, and it's a 30-minute composition, and it's a bunch of like triangles and lines and squares and dots. And that's, I think, we all grew up playing a lot of Steve Reich, and that's music that we really love, and it's also music that feels good to us and that we do really well together, especially. And so when we're learning and playing music, it's almost easier for us to think of things in these weird groupings instead of, okay, this is in 4/4, and we're going to notate it and think of it that way. But it's a very collaborative process. It's very exploratory. We never usually keep something the first time that we tried. There's a lot of editing that goes on, and we perform things a lot, and things change a lot through performance too, through playing it live and figuring out what worked and what didn't work. But I don't know, it's a unique and fun process.
Can you tell us about your rehearsal space and how you guys have found a place to rehearse and with instruments, and what that process was like over the last couple of years?
Yeah, so in Brooklyn and New York, it's kind of crazy because you don't have big houses with basements or studios, and I have a teaching studio that's 4.5 hours away. It's not super helpful. And when we before we all moved here, Matt lived here, and we used to rehearse in his living room and keep our instruments in his room. He had this oddly big closet that a broken down marimba fit into, which is kind of weird to think about. But when we all moved here, we searched for a long time for a space, and we rehearsed for a while in New Amsterdam Records. They had a big office kind of rehearsal space that we used. They were very gracious to us for a long time. And then we stumbled on this storefront in Red Hook, which is where Matt lives. It's a little bit off the beaten path. The trains don't go there. And we share it with a few other musicians, and we were first in just this 400 square foot space, which was really small. And then over the course of the year, our neighbor, who was an antique seller who was storing things, was moving out of his space, which is about a 1,200 square foot space. So we ended up moving in there and invited some other musicians in. We call it Fort Briscoe, and it's basically a music collective. There's 3 or 4 different groups that rehearse there, and people who pay in to use the space, and we use a Google Calendar, and we're all really good friends, and we're all very supportive of each other. And it is, I mean, I don't know what we would do if we didn't have that space. It feels like home. All of our things are there. You're very lucky. It's very accessible. The door opens and you're right there. There's no stairs or freight elevators or anything like that. But that's definitely been a haven for us, and we have scheduled rehearsal 2 days, 3 days a week that we use, and it's not. It's definitely become like a job. It's become part of our lives in a pretty serious way.
What gear do you use? Is it all like your personal gear? Do you share it with other groups, or?
So all 3 of us have gear that we all use, and other people in the space might have drums or other things. We pretty much keep things separate. We'll have like a drum kit usually set up in the space that anybody can use at any time, but when it comes to playing concerts and doing other things, we use all of our own gear. And that was another thing also with writing our own music. A lot of composers wanted to write these crazy things that used a lot of gear and concert bass drums and marimbas, and we didn't want to do that because it's just not feasible in New York. It's tiring here, and it's hard to move things around, so we wanted something that, we could pack in a large car and play. But that was another funny thing with Robert's piece. He wrote that piece, and he wanted to write for our instruments, so we basically packed up everything we had and put it into a basement in my house when I was living in Bard. And he sampled all of the things that we had: tuned metal pipes, mixing bowls, saw blades, all these weird school bells, all these crazy instruments, wooden slats. And he actually sampled those sounds, put them into his music software, and then wrote specifically for those sounds. And since then, the piece has been performed a lot, and we like to encourage people to find their own sounds that can kind of fit a sound world. But it was strange how, there was a tonal center with all of those weird instruments. Somehow they were actually shared a lot of pitches and a lot of chords, which was really interesting. But we have drum sets, we have a marimba, we have a vibraphone, we have a lot of different things, but we're, I think, most interested in exploring sounds that we haven't heard yet and trying to come up with interesting ways of using the instruments that we have.
Cool, great. Hey, I see another Facebook question here. It is from Alan Lange, and he asks, what are some tips you would give a person who is starting out in their own producing career? What did you do to get started on that portion of your own career?
Oh, interesting. I hung out with people who were producing cool things that I thought were really cool. I became their best friends. And I think that's true with a lot of my career and the people that I've become close to. So much of music and life for me is just really about the people and about the community. And I had come to Ohio State, I think a couple years before their first seminar, and we met them, and they were great. And right away I was like, I want to know those guys. I want to know them. I want to hang out with them. And we went to the seminar, and I went on runs with them every morning because Eric and Jason are both runners, and I wanted to hang out with them, and we talked about things. And same thing kind of happened with Doug Perkins, who I work with a lot. He came to Eastman to play this concert when I was there. We played Steve Reich's Music for 18 Musicians and was doing this crazy event in Central Park. And I was like, that sounds really interesting, and bent his ear about it, and he's like, I'm looking for people to help out. Do you want to help out? And I was like, yes, I will be there. I will drive to New York and pay me no money, and I will do whatever you need. It ended up being the most insane project, and we should have never been friends again because it actually almost didn't happen, and it was totally crazy. Putting musicians on boats
right?
in a lake is just a totally nuts thing to do. But we did it. And I think, yeah, I didn't really know anything about wanting to be a producer or a curator or anything like that, but I was really intrigued by people who were doing really interesting things. And the more time that I spent with them, the more I learned about how they do the things that they do, which inspired me to want to do my own projects and create other things as well.
So one thing you said made me actually have a question for everyone. And basically, you said something along the lines of, like, I did this for free because, you know, I wanted to do it. And then I think also probably a part of it was it would be an investment in my career.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you've done for free or at a loss or at very low profit for yourself, everyone, that has been like a career move?
Oh, the concert we played last night was for free. Big time, but we've got a really great video.
Yeah.
On YouTube and spread, you know, to a way wider community than we could reach. But I'll let you guys talk a little bit. So many things. So many things.
Well, I guess maybe to move your question a little bit, Ben, Amy's been a part of producing several mass events, and I think most of those were through the organization Make Music New York. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about the Vexations project.
Oh, yeah.
And some of the Annexuits, because I know one of the events that you've produced multiple times that it helped produce was Annexuit, John Luther Adams, which we had talked about with Sean Connors in an earlier episode. And I'm sure you weren't getting paid at the beginning, and now you are. So maybe you could tell us about the Annexuit that you have, the couple of Annexuits that you have coming up.
Yeah, so I'll rewind and go back to Vexations really quickly. So yeah, there's this organization, Make Music New York, and they celebrate, I guess, the Fête de la Musique, which is a French celebration on June 21st, the summer solstice, where everybody in France goes out of their homes and makes music, and the streets shut down, and it's like a national holiday. And now it's celebrated in cities around the world, but in New York, there's this man who has really cultivated it, and they're free outdoor concerts, and there's over 1,000 that happen every year. And again, that's where Doug's project with Persifasa happened with that organization. And after helping out with that, the following year we did Annexuit, and then they wanted to do more projects, and Doug was like, you should do something, meet this guy, do this thing. And so I produced this thing called Worldwide Vexations, where we played Eric Satie's Vexations, which in the instructions says that you should repeat the piece 840 times in order to really play the piece, which takes about 18 hours. It was first done by John Cage in New York City way long ago. And we did it in front of Wall Street on vibraphone, because it fits on a vibraphone. And we live streamed it. And of course, it wasn't enough to do that. I decided to invite people from all over the world to do the same thing on the same day, because what's more fun than doing a crazy thing by yourself, but doing it with other people in other places? So we all live webcasted this thing in Jordan and Australia and Korea and Sweden and Germany and Arizona and Canada. I mean, it was all over.
And often with the time zone too. So like I was in Jordan at that time, and I think we started when you guys started at like, what time did you start?
6 a.m.
6 a.m. So we started at like 2 p.m. or something.
We went through the night.
And we went the entire night.
The sun was rising at the end of their performance. They're crazy.
It was insane. I fell asleep.
And there's this other thing of like the impossible project and trying to conquer the impossible project, and that's kind of a really fun thing for me too, is this is crazy and it shouldn't be done, but of course that means it should be done. There's got to be a way to make it work.
And always make it happen
somehow. Yeah. And with the Annexuit, that was a similar thing. You know, we were doing it for Make Music New York, and I was really intrigued by it. Had worked with Doug a little bit. He asked if I wanted to help, and so I was game to help out. And actually, it happened in the Armory before then, the first New York performance, which I invited a bunch of friends from Eastman to come play in, because I had helped Doug with that Persifasa thing, and I was like, you owe me, can me and my friends come play Annexuit in the Park Avenue Armory? And he said, okay, sure, and then I got a kidney stone, and I couldn't go.
Yeah.
Which is very sad. So we did this one in New York, and basically, I think I had earned Doug's trust by helping him on a bunch of these big projects, so he began to invite me to help him with future iterations of it, partly because it was easier on his life. You know, he has like a family and other jobs, and here I was, this like bright-eyed person that was like, yeah, I'll do that spreadsheet, I'll send those emails. And then when Doug was too busy to do the project, I got the job of actually like, you know, being the music director, and I had done it a bunch of times that I worked with John, and he trusts me, and Doug trusts me, and I know the music really well. And it was through this, like, I don't know, apprenticeship thing where I'm a person now that people call to kind of do these things. So we have one in Boston on June 12th, and we've got almost a full 99 crew. That's being produced with my very good friend Maria Finkelmeyer, who runs Cadence Arts in Boston. And then in...
Former...
Right.
At Percussion.
Oh,
yes,
awesome.
Yeah.
Maria and I go way back to Ohio State. We're longtime pals. And then in New York, actually, on Governor's Island in August. And also pretty sure that there's one happening in Greece in June as well. So that one will be very fun. But the other crazy thing is there's 3 others that are happening this summer that I'm not even involved in. Which is also insane that this piece just keeps on going. People are very excited about it.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yes.
I just kept talking.
Definitely. No, it was good. It was great.
Well, no, I answered Ben's as well, because you did something for free, and it was a good career move.
Totally. And there's lots of that. And I think there's always, you know, we struggle, and especially, I mean, freelancers everywhere, and in New York we're always talking about, like, what is enough money to get paid to do a thing, or when should you do it for free, or what is a personal or career investment. And it's, you know, every situation is different, but 9 times out of 10, if it's a thing that I want to be involved in, or if it's people I want to be involved with, it's like, I'm going to do it. I went to Jordan for free, you know, because I wanted to go. I wanted to experience the culture. I wanted to be involved in that concert. I wanted to visit Megan too. I mean, it was like part vacation, part music. But I would have, of course I wanted to do that. That was really important for me.
I think you also have to be very creative about finding money in different ways too. And I think a program that we were both fortunate to be involved with is the Arts Leadership Program at Eastman. And you can enroll in this program, apply to be in this program, take several classes, but then also an internship is part of
a paid
getting
internship
the certificate.
Eastman.
Yeah, so that was really great, because you can basically take, the keyword is paid, so you can basically take that, go to anyone that you're interested in working with, whether it be a group or an organization or, you know, an individual, and say, hey, can I help you and learn about what you do for free? Oh, and I'm going to get paid by my school. And it's so valuable. So I think that was a great tool for both of us as well.
Definitely. And I know, like, Tigue, all 3 members of Tigue are ALP alums. We all did internships that have hugely impacted our lives. I interned with when I was at Eastman, and I approached Jason right away and was like, I want to work with you. What can I do? And I ended up working with the festival for 3 years. I played with them. They gave me a job at Bard for 2 years. I mean, that opened up a lot of doors. Matt interned with Bang on a Can, was their festival production manager for 5 years, has worked at Bang on a Can. We have cultivated a great relationship with them. They've given us performance opportunities. And Carson interned with Ensemble Signal, and has since, you know, we all play with Signal now. We all work with them. We all are in that community as well. And I think it's a direct response from us just really investing in those relationships, both from a musical work side of things, but also like from a personal side of things. I want to know you and what you're doing and be a part of that, because I really think it's a great thing.
Yeah, there should be a word for that itch or that drive, because it's not like you're strategically going, ooh, I'm going to do this thing for free because then it's going to lead to this and then lead to that, and oh yeah, I got a big plan. And no, it just seems like it is just part of your personality.
Yeah, probably a really long German word for it.
What's that?
It probably is.
There's probably a really long German word for it.
Yeah, I have this allergy to the N word, the networking word, because that word just, it doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't feel good.
It's slimy.
It's, yeah, and I don't know, I mean, I don't think that people always intend for it to be so, but to me, I've never thought about, the strategy. It's like, you're totally correct in that. I want to know these people, yes, they're doing great musical and career things, but that is because of who they are as people and as humans and how they've been able to reach and connect with other people, because that's how all of these things are built. We all know that, you know. All of these great and successful people are great people because people trust them and they want to be around them and they want to make concerts with them, you know, and do other projects and other things. And I think it's so important.
Well, there's such a personal, creative, and artistic side to what we do that I think that coming from the business world, it doesn't really directly translate. You know, I think that's why it doesn't sound right.
I think you really hit the nail on the head with talking about like the N-word networking, because there's someone I won't name by name, but I can think of that like was all about like I gotta have a website and I gotta meet people. I gotta go to PASIC and meet people and all. And it's like, yeah, but for what? Your product is terrible. It's like you need to like, yeah, networking is important, but don't network just for the sake of networking. And another, I think, dirty kind of slimy word often that gets thrown around, and I got asked about this at my job interview, is recruiting. And like I think, you know, recruiting to me almost feels like this slimy thing where you're going out and trying to like capture people and bring them to your place. No. Recruiting is being a really awesome percussion studio and showing that to other people, and if it's good enough, they'll come to you. You don't have to like go get them and bring them to you. That's not recruiting.
Right, exactly. I think that's a key word too, being the right fit. And I think also like the recruiting activities, I've been thinking about this so much, you know, now being in college teaching, is like go out and make a difference. Like make percussion in the state of Missouri a better thing. Like that's
exactly.
Not to, you know, but go to a high school, but like give them tools that they can use, and you're not going to be there on a regular basis, but, you know, show your face and get to know them and make them excited about percussion and help them be a part of the community and make the community better rather than, you're not always care, you know, I'll say.
Yeah, and you're not always going to see like a direct growth, like, oh, I hosted this drumline camp, so I got 5 new students. Like, that's not how it works. You host a drumline camp to help them out, and if it's awesome enough, they'll come to you, you know.
Right.
Go here and here. What are you, stupid? Go to these schools. Come on.
Here's your JMU shirt.
I know. I need a JMU shirt. I thought the office was enough. Here's something real slimy. Here, Ben, buy these mallets.
They don't make them over tan yet.
Just buy them. It doesn't matter. Just buy them. Casey mallets. Just buy them up. Spend a lot of money. It doesn't matter what you're playing. They sound great on triangle. Megan, what do you have for us today?
Yeah, so I just took a walk yesterday in Amy's neighborhood, and
Crown Heights in Brooklyn.
Yes. And my segment went away here. I gotta get it back. And I was walking around, and I started to hear percussion. I started to hear like a beat, and I thought it was maybe coming from a car or something. And it just kept getting louder, and it was lasting for a really long time. I was like, what is going on? And all of a sudden, this drum line walks by. I was like, oh my gosh, it's a live drum line. That's pretty crazy. What's going on? And yeah, so in Crown Heights, it's a huge Caribbean neighborhood. There's a lot of Trinidadian people, and it's just very colorful and vibrant, and people are outside all the time, and there's great food around, and yeah, I don't know, it's just very alive. Walk around Crown Heights if you're in Brooklyn, for sure.
Very beautiful too. It's very green.
Yeah.
There's lots of trees, and it's very close to Prospect Park, which is the big park in Brooklyn, which is almost as big as Central Park. A lot of people don't know that.
Well, I didn't know that, actually. Yeah. So anyway, my senses were just kind of like taking all these things in, and then this drum line walks by, and so I was just like, what is going on? So I followed them for a couple of minutes, and they stopped and did a performance kind of on the street corner, and they were passing out flyers, and I realized it was the Brooklyn United Marching Band, and their drumline, I think, is called Brooklyn Evolution or something. So I tried to learn a little bit more about them, and I want to share that with you guys. But they're a community-based organization that serves New York City youth. And as an art form, marching band combines the elements of musicianship and pageantry and allows each student to participate in an all-encompassing and life-changing activity. Brooklyn United is focused on the development of youth through academic support, character development, skill building, and performance opportunities. And their mission is to provide inner-city youth from the ages of 5 to 21 with positive marching band experience while promoting the 4 pillars of the 4 that I had mentioned before. And so they offer classes during the summer and during the school year. And you do have to pay for these opportunities. I don't know if they have any financial support or anything, but they are paid programs, usually after school and again between the ages of 5 and 17. So there's like a djembe and dance program, there's a drumline thing, there's a color guard program, and there's also, you know, other instruments in the marching band, of course. So I just thought this was really cool. I mean, the energy that they had, we'll have to overlay a video or something. It was incredible, and there were some really young kids on the line. They were so cute, like incredible. And my phone died while I was watching them, or I would have gotten a video. It was incredible. So this experience reminded me of a couple other groups I've run into this year. One was when I was talking about HBCU, Historically Black College and Universities, drumlines earlier in the year. There was a group on that show called Pulse Percussion, and they're from Peoria, Illinois. And it stands, they call it Pulse Percussion, or PIC, Pushing Inner City Kids. And that group, their mission is that we strive for the youth involved to obtain self-discipline, teamwork, leadership, and maintain integrity, along with supporting our community values. We urge each student to achieve personal greatness while they enjoy unique talents and determination to increase their skills to extraordinary levels of excellence to be role models. And so that's also an after-school program. They were incredible also. Same style of drumline. So this is HBCU that I had explained before, with similar instruments but a little bit different, very groove-based, dancing around, having a lot of fun, really, really entertaining. The third organization that I've come across recently is called OrchKids, and they're a year-round during and after-school music program designed to create social change, keyword social change. This has been in all 3 of the organizations, and nurture promising futures for youth in Baltimore city neighborhoods. And this is a program of the BSO, Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, and it's the cornerstone of their efforts to expand the relevance within broad and diverse Baltimore community. They have several community partners, including Baltimore City Public Schools, and they provide music education, instruments, academic instruction, meals, as well as performance and mentorship opportunities at no cost to students and families. It's inspired by Venezuela's El Sistema program. It's a program that has transformed the lives of hundreds of thousands of children in the country's most impoverished areas. And I saw, actually Amy, I think, sent me, or somehow we saw this bucket drumming thing by OrchKids. We said, what is this? And we're often sharing videos and saying, oh, isn't this cool? Like, you know, brainstorming for future projects. Mm-hmm. And then when I was teaching at Interlochen last summer, I had 2 students who were in OrchKids. And so the whole summer I was, you know, just constantly pushing them, asking more questions to find out more about this organization. But these 2 students, they every single day after school, they go to OrchKids, every day, and they have free instruction. I think it's 7 days a week. It's like every 6 or 7 days a week, but they have 5 days of after-school program, and then the 6th day they go to Peabody. So, and all of that is free. I think it's so cool that these programs exist, and kind of ironic that I ran into 3 of them in the same year. And I'm sure there are many more that exist across. But Amy also had an experience with OrchKids, and I know you also teach in a couple of public schools here. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about those experiences.
Yeah, so Tigue, we did a tour in March, and we mixed it with playing at a bunch of eclectic venues in, I don't know, like 12 different cities, but then also trying to do some educational things. We went to Belmont University and Appalachian State University, and we worked with OrchKids. And our really good friend Kurt Fetty, who went to Eastman with us, he actually works for OrchKids in Baltimore and is a teacher and also kind of an organizer. And we went into 3 of his schools, and some of them we just played, and others we did like an instrument building workshop, and then we wrote pieces together, And it was incredible. They were incredible kids. It was a lot of fun. And then in New York, I teach in 2 public schools through the Brooklyn Conservatory of Music in a program called Music Partners, where they take professional musicians, and we're basically their band teachers. So I'm like percussion specialist, and then I also run some of the bands sometimes. And I go to each school once a week, and I'm there for about 3 hours working with students from 4th grade through 7th grade, mostly on like snare drum and bass drum and like band repertoire kinds of things. But in my percussion classes, I try to kind of open it up, and we make compositions and do all kinds of fun things together. But it's great.
It's cool.
So, all the groups Megan was talking about reminded me of the community groups. Are you guys familiar with the Louisville Locals?
Oh yeah.
That's another big one, and I was just searching for it. I came across a news article from 2015, so hopefully things have taken a turn for the better. But if anyone's not familiar with this group, there's like a video of them playing like an Ozzy Osbourne cover and a Led Zeppelin cover. It's these little kids on tons and tons of mallet instruments playing these like rock and roll songs, and it's supposed to like just be a positive community experience for young kids. But this article from 2015 talked about how they might lose their rehearsal space. I can't remember if it was a lack of funding or if it was like the building was going a different direction. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think
Ozzy Osbourne donated $10,000 to this group, and Ariana Grande donated a $15,000 college fund to this group.
I think Ozzy donated 20.
Yeah.
I just googled and found the article that said 10, but maybe there was another 10.
Danny Markham. Yeah.
She totally.
We talked about them. I had profiled Danny Markham in one of the rhythm scene things on the podcast, and she was a local leopard.
Right.
Yeah.
She's a percussionist with Tune Yards with Merrill Garbus, who's like big pop star.
Gotcha.
And it's awesome.
Yeah.
Really good group.
Hey, Megan, you mentioned these 3 groups, and they provide all this education and this positive activity for free. Do you have any idea how they pay for it?
Well, Brooklyn United isn't free. I don't know if you know anything more about that, but
don't.
from what I
Sure,
can tell
lots of
from their
grants,
website, it seems like that those are paid classes for the most part. But OrchKids, I mean, and something I didn't mention was that the students that were at Interlochen were at Interlochen for free. You know how much it costs to go there?
Right.
It's not cheap. So yeah, clearly they're doing some fundraising. But I'm sure there are lots of grants and.
OrchKids is supported by the Symphony.
Yeah.
Right. So that's supported by the Baltimore Symphony, I think.
Right.
Mary Naxlaw.
Yeah, so I'm sure that, I know CSO, Chicago Symphony also has, most symphony orchestras seem to have this kind of a community music school / an outreach component to them, and often there's a separate person in charge of this, and I'm sure that person is in charge of writing a lot of grants as well.
Megan, don't you have some sort of community component at Missouri?
We have a community music school attached, yeah.
For some reason, I thought you were involved in heavily in that.
No.
Or did you do a world music class for kids or something?
Well, I do volunteer at elementary school.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
With Juliet. Yeah, we teach at Lee Elementary, which is an expressive arts magnet school. So it's a public school.
Gotcha.
And that's a lot of fun. But yeah, we do have a community music school where students can pay kind of a decreased fee for taking lessons from graduate students or professors.
We had the neighboring preschool that every year they come in a class or 2. It was 2 separate days this year, and they kind of do a hands-on percussion thing. And this was, of course, it's my first year here, so this is my first time doing it. And usually they just kind of walk them through the equipment room and kind of demonstrate some things and show them some things. And I thought, no, let's turn it into a real clinic, and let's reserve the room, set aside instruments. I'll get some of the ed students or any students that are want to do it, and we'll get some clinicking experience. I had no clue how young preschoolers are. I
I learned
the most. No doubt. I was the
It
one who learned stuff that day.
could be really fun to get like a little like 3-minute long little kids drumming piece and put it on your percussion ensemble concert.
That would be cool. But
I
I thought,
honestly made it like crowd favorite. Like people would way rather hear that than anything I want to hear. So.
in my defense, I thought the email said elementary school, and I thought, oh yeah, well you could do a lot with those kids. So I definitely made a mistake. But here I was thinking, oh yeah, you could draw some kind of like box rhythms and do some kind of like clap clap or something. That was actually one of my students' ideas to do that. No. No, none of that. Yeah, but it was fun. Yeah.
I guess I was thinking, as we've continued this conversation, that if anyone who's listening is interested in, if that kind of sparks your interest at all, these groups, you should look into volunteering or having a summer job working with a group like that. I think that's another employment opportunity that sometimes we don't think about, and we've talked about summer jobs and things on the podcast before, but for students who, rather than working at McDonald's or Subway or whatever, sometimes there are employment opportunities with groups like this where you really can make a difference.
Yeah, oftentimes, even like Evan Chapman does a really cool thing with little kids. He works with like kindergartens and first graders. I see on Facebook all the time. Like, he's this great, amazing drummer and videographer, but it's like a job that he has.
Yeah.
And it impacts people in a real and true way. Some of the kids I teach, they need it. It's a big part of their life. It's a place they can express themselves, and it's really powerful.
Yeah. And even if you're not a music ed major, like we don't have any music ed degrees, right?
No.
Right.
And sometimes my students say, well, I'm not music ed, I don't know how to teach. It's like, you can play.
Right.
Think about,
and you're going to teach.
Play.
You're going to teach.
So you might as well get some experience with it now, and encouraging them. And just because you're not music ed doesn't mean that's not going to be a part of your life, or that can't be a part of your life because you don't have a degree.
And I think it's more the personality that we mentioned before, like Amy's personality, go make it happen and just go do it. Yeah, of course that applies to teaching. Like, yeah, well, you're going to be stopped because you don't have an ed degree? No, like, go.
You're going to learn. Maybe your first year you're going to be terrible. I learned so much last year after I started working in elementary school. I was talking to a bunch of teachers who weren't music teachers at all, but just, how do I control them? How do I balance this? This kid is acting out. I'm giving him all my attention, and they're like, well, that's the first place you're on. Give the attention to the people doing the good thing, and that kid's going to want to get the attention, so he'll want to do the good thing. You're not going to be perfect. Everybody's going to be learning, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
But
You can learn a lot just by talking to experienced teachers. Yeah, my mom was a first and third grade teacher for 30 years, and until I started teaching, I feel like when I started teaching younger students, which for the first time was in Jordan, I had so much more respect for her, because I didn't understand before why she was so tired at the end of every day, and she had so much advice to offer just from teaching for that many years, but you don't really know until you're in it and you're like, oh my God, stop talking. Like, what do I do? Yeah.
What grades did your mom teach, Megan? Sorry.
She mostly taught first grade. She taught third grade for a while too. So elementary school. It's
a different, it's just totally different. I was amazed at one day there were 3 teachers with these preschoolers, another day I think there were 4, but they were just incredible. Like, there was never a dead moment. They just like, oh, okay, we're here, this is what we're doing now, okay, now do this, and they were just able to improvise what we were doing anytime I wasn't doing something, It was just a totally different skill than teaching probably even third graders, I think people so often it's like, okay, we go to school, we graduate, what do we do next? We're so used to being institutionalized, because you grow up in an institution, you're told what to do, everything is there for you, the building is there, the books are there for you, the desk is there. You're really used to just doing what you're kind of meant to and supposed to do, and then you graduate and it comes time to make something, and it just feels so unfamiliar. And I feel like we have guest after guest after guest, and we talk to musician after musician after musician who have made something, And it's like, no, don't wait for the opening to appear. Like, go make something of yourself, and then you might get the opening later, or not. You'll find you don't need the opening because you've made something even better.
That didn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well,
there was this really, you're mentioning, there was this amazing blog post by Percussion, I think it was Rob Knopper, who basically was talking about his first day at the Phil. I think he either plays for the Phil or the Met. I don't remember.
The Phil.
Yeah.
And about looking for feedback. And he, his first rehearsal, he was expecting all this feedback, and he got nothing. And he tried to get it from people, and he kept playing, and he realizing, like, I'm not getting any feedback. Like, what's going on? I need to know if I'm doing the right thing or what the right thing is. And the truth is, when you're in the real world, you have to make those decisions. You have to be able to say, this is right because I believe it's right, instead of this institutionalized thing of, like you said, feedback and acceptance and,
And trust that you've had the training and that you've put in the hours and you've done the practicing.
And you are in
have
position.
the skills. Yeah.
And I think people actually appreciate when you get to that level, because when I watch Michael Burritt play, it doesn't feel like he's saying, is this all right? Is this how this should, he's definitely on it,
Right.
you can make a comparison with publishers and also sponsors as well, I think. People often say, like, how do I get published? How do I get published? And you'll find, well, no one's going to want to publish you until you're already out there and you're already sought after and you're already getting played, because people try to do it the reverse way. They go like, well, I'm not getting out there, I'm not getting played, so I need a publisher because that'll help me get out there. It's like, no, they're not interested in you until you're a product, So it's like, no, you got to just make it first. That's always the answer. Like, you go do it first and don't rely on people to do it for you ahead of time.
Yeah.
Bam. Ben, look. Just buy them. Okay, we better wrap. All right, so Laurel's not here to keep me from being an idiot, so it's time to stop. Amy Garapic, thanks so much for joining us. It was really fun talking to you.
Great, thanks so much for having me. This was
Absolutely.
It was a nice, fun surprise, and I'm glad to have met and chatted with all of you.
Sure, yeah, great snag, Megan, and thanks for throwing it together while you were there.
Sure. Absolutely.
Cool. All right, guys, take it easy. We'll catch you for next episode next week and Game of Thrones. Bye.
Bye.
Once again, that is Tigue.